want to thank JTL Construction, run by three former wrestlers, Jeff Leonard, Jason Effner, my co-founder of Wrestlers in Business Network, and Mike McLaughlin. Started in 2004. They're the total project excellence from concept to completion. They're general contractors, construction management, development, third-party project management. And these guys, former wrestlers, former coaches, actually, I think Jeff still coaches, wonderful guys and supporters of the St. Ed's program and the great Greg Urbas. We want to thank JTL Construction. Reach out to them at builtbyjtl.com. Again, Jason Effner, Mike McLaughlin, and Jeff Leonard. Thanks so much, JTL.
Blood Time, the podcast that speaks to the bond, the emotion between coach and athlete at the interscholastic and intercollegiate level. Each interview, each segment will reveal that bond and what was learned, how they were transformed, and what each athlete took to the world at large from that transformation. These stories will warm your heart and astound you altogether. Submitted for your approval. Now it is Blood Time. Hey, this is Coach Cimoroni for Blood Time. I'm so happy to be here today. I got to thank my last two guests, wrestling royalty. I actually had a two-time and a one-time NCAA champion brothers, the Milkoviches, Pat and Tom Milkovich, in studio last week, as well as both three-time state champions at Ohio State, for the state of Ohio. And also both Hall of Famers inducted into the Michigan State Hall of Fame. Amazing stories, fantastic philosophies, and wrestling royalty from the Milkovich family. Thank you to Tom and Pat Milkovich. Today I have more wrestling royalty, but this wrestling royalty originated, I believe, in Long Island, New York, and then matriculated at the Penn State University and represented us at the Olympic Games twice. A two-time NCAA champion, a Dan Hodge winner, as well as recently the head wrestling coach at both Stanford and University of Maryland, the Terrapins, Carrie McCoy. How are you, Carrie?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, Carrie, I'm so blessed. You're my third two-time NCAA champion on the podcast. We had Gabe Dean originally, and then Pat Milkovich, and now you, champion in 94 and 97, correct?
Yep. It was, you can find some action on the History Channel if you look it up.
I love it. Well, I know that you beat some wrestling royalty as well to make the world teams. I think you beat the amazing Stephen Neal. Am I correct?
Yep. We had some battles throughout our careers, and 2000 and 2001 were world team spots that I won, and he won in 99. So
yep.
We had some epic battles.
Well, he was an amazing guy. I have a good connection to Stephen Neal. His agent, Neil Cornrich, who got him on the New England Patriots, is a dear friend of mine and a graduate. We both graduated from our high schools the same year and been friends ever since. And he tells amazing stories about Stephen Neal as a football player. Crazy transition, right?
This story is just so crazy because, he made the decision, but it was all kind of like he didn't play football in college.
Right, not a down.
For him to transition into it and not just transition, but to have the success that he had in such a career that it's just awesome. But, anybody that knows Steven knows that it really isn't that crazy when you think about, the type of person he is.
Yep.
Because he's such a hard worker, so dedicated, and, he knew he was going to succeed at a high level.
Well, to put a bow on that conversation, Belichick calls him his hardest working ever. Now think about that. Think about that. So you beat the hardest working New England Patriot ever and a two-time Super Bowl champion, my friend. So that's great stuff, right? Yeah. So
it's very blessed to have had some cool things happen in my career.
Yeah, and you also beat Tully Thompson and Stephen Mocco too, correct?
Yeah. people, and I always credit all those guys because they made me better. I knew that. I mean, I go back to Tolly,
right?
And we wrestled through all the entire collegiate career, and then internationally, and Steve and I wrestled, and then Steve Mocco was later on, and all these guys pushed me to be better because I knew I had to be my A game had to be on every time because I couldn't slack and get by them. So better.
Well, I'll tell you what, Carrie, when I first watched you wrestle, I was fortunate enough to see you, and I just saw a transformation of the heavyweight class. You were the first true, in my estimation, true athlete. I mean, I grew up with Chris Taylor. I was in that era when when everybody was 300-400 pounds, and you looked like 157 pounder, 165 pounder out there wrestling, like, you know what I mean? It was unbelievable.
Yeah, well, I mean, I appreciate that, and I think there were a couple people before me that I think would definitely lay the foundation. Kurt Angle,
oh yeah,
Wellen, those are national champs in the early '90s.
Yep.
And I competed against both those guys internationally, and they definitely were. I mean, Kurt was, I think the story was when he won his second title, he was just over 200 pounds against Sylvester Turkey, who was like 6'6", 280, and I remember that match. I have it burned in my memory when he hit his duck under to get that takedown to win the title. But yeah, so there were some guys out there before that I could look to say, okay, yeah, big guys don't have to just stand around and push each other. You can actually move.
Yeah, Kurt was an incredible athlete, and what an amazing story, right? That he transitioned into entertainment and did just as well in entertainment as he did amateur-wise, which obviously is not real wrestling, but it is an amazing thing when you think about it. What that entertainment area has created for our culture.
Oh yeah, and I think the biggest thing for him, I mean, the amount of wear and tear is on your body from amateur wrestling, and then you add jumping off of 6 feet ring ropes and crashing into chairs and things like that. I mean, his body was he pushed his body to a limit as an amateur, but the professional entertainment side, he really went through the ringer, and for him to be able to do it for so long at such a high level is just a true credit to the character and the dedication that he has, and I'm fortunate to be able to call him a friend as well.
Yes, well, and then also too locally we had Tommy Rollins, who didn't do too bad either. And when I first saw him in high school, I said, "Oh my God, this is a heavyweight." He wrestled like a 103-pounder. It was amazing.
Yeah, Tommy. Again, like you just listed, I had an opportunity to get to know Tommy real well. We recruited him coming out of high school, and then through the years, really get to know him and his family. And one of his close friends growing up was on the team at Penn State, Ross Thatcher, and
sure,
he ended up going back and coaching at Ohio State. And so I got to know Tommy real well. Competed against him a little bit, a couple of U.S. Open World Team Trials events, and yeah, he was solid. He was one of those guys that really get mobile, heavyweight, high skill level, but most important, just a great person, and that goes on today with what he's doing in his professional life, and again, fortunate to have a relationship with guys like that not only were great athletes, but great people, and make the sport and this world better.
Yeah, that's what this is all about too. Blood Time is about that transformative moment when the athlete and the coach bond, become family, and that athlete evolves into something special. And so I you are something special, Carrie. We are blessed to have you on. I mean, not only as a high school and collegiate athlete, and then international athlete, but also as a phenomenal coach. It's 2 amazing universities, and now in your new adventure. But I want to talk about that Blood Time moment for you. I mean, you've been surrounded. I mean, literally, you were like the golden era of heavyweight wrestling in our country, but there had to be that special coach or coaches that really connected with, that transformed Carrie Mccoy into who Carrie Mccoy is today. And I just going to turn it over to you and share with us who that may, or who those persons may have been.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks for the question, and especially in the last few years, as my faith got stronger, I realized that all of this it's all part of God's plan for me, and
sure.
He gifts me with certain talents and abilities, and most importantly, He put certain people in my life that made a big difference. And so I give credit to God first, because without him, none of it will be possible. I started off with my high school coach, Mike McCoy.
Okay.
Mike McCoy, an All-American at Iowa State, and he was the definition of a servant leader coach. I mean, the things he would do for our team, whether it was taking us to competitions or letting us train in a certain way. And like one time, I remember our senior year, we had our senior trip and we had a match. The senior trip was like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We had a match Friday night, so we weren't going to be able to go. And he said he made a deal with the seniors, and there's three of us at the time. He said, okay, we'll wrestle Friday night, and it was a ski trip about 4 or 5 hours away.
Wow.
And he's like, you guys can't ski, but I'll drive you up. And he drove us up to the senior trip and dropped us off. And that type of commitment that he had. So he would do things like that, and that just showed the athlete relationship, but really just that being able to have that servant heart, and that's something that really stuck with me throughout my entire career. Next, my college coaches, John Frenzo and Hashiro Ishii, were the head coach and assistant coach, and they were just incredible because, again, building off that servant leadership type, just willing to do everything they could, but really connecting, being able to serve, but then also having high standards and high expectations. And that's something that really made a difference in my career to this day, and in my personal life as well. So those guys were huge factors, and all the assistant coaches that I had at Penn State through the years. And then the next guys at the international level, and I was blessed to have unbelievable coaches and mentors. And Bruce Burnett, who was he actually coached me on the cadet world team, the junior world team, and the Olympic team. He was the national team coach for a long time out in Colorado Springs. It was again at all those levels he was there. And then Kevin Jackson was the national team coach after Bruce stepped down and went into the collegiate ranks. And it was so key to have him, and be an Olympic champion and all the things that he would bring to the table. And then Greg Strobel was he coached for the New York Athletic Club, and he was my competitive coach at my corner at the World Championships at the Olympic Games. But he was my boss when I worked at Lehigh, and he taught me again about the sport, about the business, about life in general. So it's just amazing. Those are some of the people, especially as we look back on it, all of them were very strong Christians, very faithful people, and that made a big difference too, because the way they lived their life put a stamp on my heart. And so the wrestling was important, and the life lessons were important, but it's really just their commitment to being servants, and under the umbrella of their worship and their faith really had the biggest impact on me.
I love that, Carrie, because that's you're talking about spiritual excellence, and it just comes through in the servant mentality. And I love that too, because we surely, particularly, I'm a high school wrestling head coach at Chagrin Falls High School. I surely don't do it for the money. So I do it for the love, and for the spirit of it. But more importantly, it sets a tone, and it sets a culture. And culture is so important in any organization that's successful. But it's also about not only the coaches, and we were blessed to have a 3-time NCAA champion, a 3-time world champion on our 7th episode, Lee Kemp. And Lee talked about, right? Lee Kemp, man. I mean, here we go, right? And he talked about his drill partner in college, who was an average to above average wrestler. And Lee took, beat him pretty much to death every day. But that guy came back every day and gave Lee everything he could. And he said he was as instrumental as anybody else in his development. And I was wondering, is there any of that special drill partner or special teammate that just really affected you as well?
Yeah, and again, I go back, there's so many to point out. I'll be here all day to name everybody, but
right.
A handful that really stay out. So my in high school, everything for me obviously goes back to high school and the foundation that was set there. So one of my best workout partners was he was a guy older than me. His name was Nick Hall. He ended up at Old Dominion. He was an All-American at Old Dominion.
Okay.
He was a cadet world champion in freestyle back when we were in high school, but he was a guy that beat me from here to there throughout my high school career. But he also helped me. He wasn't one of those guys that would just beat up on you and then just take off. He would teach, and he would learn, and help me to learn and help me to grow. And throughout, I started wrestling in 7th grade, so he's a year older than me. And from start to finish, he was always there as somebody that I can lean on and learn from. And I give the best credit to him when I was a junior, he was a senior. I ended up being ranked second in the state, and the guy that was ranked first in the state was in our section.
Right.
And in New York, only the second champs back then went to the state championship. So I had to go to the states, and he took the time, and he came, and I hadn't done this before, as far as scouting and game planning. I just went out and wrestled.
Okay.
He took the time to come up with a specific game plan. We went and we scouted this guy. We watched him wrestle a couple matches, and we'd go back and work on the thing that we had a set game plan. And I don't necessarily know, how the game plan itself, played out in the match. I ended up getting a reversal with like the man left in the third and rode him out to beat him 2-1.
Awesome.
But the fact of learning how to train for a specific opponent, learning how to train for a specific competition, and putting that energy in, that focused energy, is something that he taught me back then, and that was really significant because, and my coaches had that same impact too, but really when it's a teammate, someone that's doing the work that has that success,
yep.
He really put a foundation for me, so he was one of the most influential partners that I've had. And then I had another high school teammate named John Lange, who was 2 years younger than me, and he and his brothers, they kind of, when I started wrestling, they were the family that I was able to latch on to, and John was my workout partner my senior year, and I wrestled 177.
Okay.
And John was a 145 pounder. He was state champ at 145, I was state champ at 177, but that was my main workout partner. So I was, at any given day, I was 25, 30 pounds heavier than him.
Right.
He worked out just about every day in practice, and so having him, and he's 2 years younger than me, he's 30 pounds lighter than me, and he was there. And then he ended up, coming to college. He came to Penn State with after I did, so we were teammates in college and high school. And ironically enough, he lives in the East Bay, and so when I was out here the first time in the Bay Area,
yep,
he was here. Now I'm coming back, so I'm going to be able to reconnect with him. But he was such a significant person, in the tail end, because Nikki was putting the beatings on me earlier,
yep,
and then helped me. And then when I got to that point where I was kind of getting back to get beatings to some of the younger guys, John was the one that was helped push me. He'd have been three state titles. He was a Big Ten champ and All-American at Penn State. So those are two guys that really set the foundation earlier. Through college, I had some great partners. Just too many to name all the guys at Penn State.
Sure.
So the ones that I say popped out, John and Russ Hughes, they were twins. John was a 4-time Pennsylvania state champ. Russ was a 2-time state champ. And they were from Pennsylvania, just the two farm boys that came up and were kicking butt and had a lot of success in high school. And when I was my first day on campus, they kind of took me under their wing and said, hey, we're going to put what we need to do to help you be successful. And they were my host on my recruiting visit to Penn State, so I had a pretty good connection with them. And then they were into so many other members of the team, but they were partners that they would put it on me pretty good. My first and techniques, I learned a slide by. Jeff Prescott was really good with slide by, and those guys. And I think it was Russ that taught me to slide by, and that ended up being one of my top techniques.
You were definitely beautiful with that slide by. There's no question about it. I mean, you perfected that, and I want to come back to that, but also too want to talk a little bit about your next adventure and your coaching career. But we're going to take a little bit of a break, Carrie, and we'll be back in about half a minute.
All right, sounds good.
I want to thank Serve Pro of Beechwood, our newest sponsor, and Jack Coslin, the owner. They serve all of Northeast Ohio, not just Beechwood. They specialize in disaster cleanup that leaves your home or office like new, like it never happened. Flood and water damage, fire, mold, and they say even blood and guts. Not just any Serve Pro. Seek out Serve Pro of Beechwood. That's Serve Pro Beechwood, Shaker Heights, ClevelandHeights.com, 216-464-4498. Operated by a former All-State wrestler from Beechwood, we love Serve Pro of Beechwood. Men, are you looking for that great suit or sports outfit made out of the finest fabrics and made to measure tailoring? J&A Custom Clothing, Tailoring, and Alteration will come to your home or office and give you that fashion statement that you will be known for. Call J&A Custom Clothing and the owner, Joseph Alberstadt, at 216-513-6165. That's J&A Custom Clothing, 216-513-6165.
And we're back with two-time NCAA champion and Olympian Carrie McCoy. Carrie, welcome back.
Thank you. Having a good time.
Yes, indeed. We're really here. I love the stories and the names and the, oh my God, what you are just surrounded by the most incredibly talented and quality people in our sport. And that then helped you become a coach. I mean, obviously you wrestled for our country internationally. I believe you were a Pan American champion. You were a world silver medalist, and then wrestled for us in the Olympics. After your international career, you went into coaching and became the head coach at Stanford and then at Maryland. Talk a little bit about how you were inspired to do that, and then maybe some of the successes that you had there.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome because the great thing about our sport is to be able to train at a high level. You have to be around it, and so
right.
For me, during my competitive career, I was coaching. As an assistant coach, and doing that stuff, and it was just gave me the opportunity to develop my skills while I was competing. So once I stopped competing, I wanted to take it to the next level, and really when I talk about the transition from athlete to coach, it was after my sophomore year. In college, I won the NCAA tournament, and obviously when you have a little bit of success, you get some interest in camps and clinics, and to make do things and work and be counselors and things like that. And
right.
I fell in love with just helping people and growing and teaching. During that summer, I think that summer I probably did 10 or 15 camps across the country, and I just loved being able to teach and share and pour into people. So that kind of sparked the idea of being a coach. As I said, to compete and train at a high level, it's a natural transition to be in a coaching position to
sure.
To be around it all the time. So
right.
That was a big part of it. And ultimately, when I think about it, I look back to, as we talk about all the people that poured into me, my coaches, and the people that helped me in my career, and I was like, I want to be able to give back to the sport that's given me so much.
Right.
And so, the kind of combination of the proximity of being around to try to train and compete, and then, getting to know the kids and the experience through camps and clinics, and just wanting to give back was really the foundation. So after my last year in 2004, I stayed on at Lehigh, and I talked to Greg Strobel, who was the head coach at the time, and he had known that I'd want to be a head coach. That was a goal that I wanted to have, for a while.
Right.
And when I went to Lehigh, he knew that part of my transition was just going to be to learn. So that year from 2004 to 2005, I really stepped it up, and I just said, hey, I need to learn as much as I can in this year so I can be ready for when that opportunity comes. And he took me under his wing again in a different capacity than as a coach. He was as a mentor and fundraising and recruiting and just organizational structure and planning and I got those lessons from all of my coaches on how to do things and how to do things at a high level.
Sure.
So that last year was just galvanized effort to really be ready, because I felt like I didn't know where the opportunity was going to come, but I wanted to make sure I was ready. And fortunately, through that year, obviously our Lehigh teams are doing real well, and I garnered some interest and had a few opportunities, and ended up on the West Coast at Stanford, which I'd always kind of been enamored with Stanford, the success of their athletic department as a whole.
Oh, absolutely.
In 2000, in the Olympic Village, they had in our little rec area in Team USA area, they had a flag, and it had a bunch of signatures on it. So I remember walking up to it and saying, oh, well, they signed this flag, and the person was like, no, this is the Stanford flag.
Right.
And there were like 15 to 20 people from Stanford representing us in the Olympics back in 2000. So I knew that the level of expertise. And Patricia Miranda, who is USA Wrestling's first female Olympic medalist ever, because she wrestled for the bronze in 2004. She was a Stanford alum, and
sure.
I got to know some of the other guys and wrestlers from Stanford. So I just knew it was a place that I would want to be in if I had the opportunity. So that's how I got started and came out here, and we had a great time, and with the resources and the connections and the availability to recruit the best and brightest athletes and students in the world. So
that's the
kind of kicked off.
Yeah, in Stanford, that's the true scholar athlete.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, you have to. My nephew Matt Guerreri is the defensive coordinator for Duke football, and so he has the same thing on the East Coast in Duke. Very similar mentality of the quality of individual that they're attracting there to play sports at that level. And so, and the other thing too is with Stanford, you get a really bright guy or woman to play the sport there. And so I'm going to ask you a question. Let's pretend we're back at Stanford and I'm your top recruit. And I'm asking you, my question to you, Carrie, is, Carrie, you've wrestled the greatest of your generation. And what special moment, what connection, what aha moment was created in your mind when you knew that you could beat a Stephen Neal or Stephen Mocco or Telly Thompson? What is that feeling like? What is that technique? What is that combination of things that gets you? Because those guys are as good as you on any given day. And you know what I mean? How do you do that? What is the mentality and what is the physicality of that makes you that better, that much better?
Yeah, that's awesome. It's a great question. And again, I go back to God-given talent, God-given abilities, God-given circumstances and atmosphere, and I think that's really what it is. And for me, I talk about it all the time, and it's not, and I don't want to make it oversimplified, but it's not rocket science for me. It was just I worked as hard as I could work to be the best that I could be, and I trusted that when I went out and competed, that I was going to perform at the level that I prepared to. So I always tell people, you take confidence in your preparation. It's cliche in a sense, but it's so true. It's like you control what you can control. So the only thing I can control is being as prepared as I can be when I go out there. We talked earlier about being able to scout your opponents and come to a game plan. That's a big part of it. So I knew that I did. If I'm wrestling Stephen Neal, I know the big double's coming, so I got to make sure I keep my feet moving and keep distance and don't let them set.
Right.
If I'm wrestling Steve Mocco, I know his foot sweep is coming, so I got to keep this leg forward and make sure that I'm moving around and control the position. If I'm wrestling Telly Thompson, he's going to be a monster and so strong and snap my head off the mat a few times, so I got to be ready to weather the storm and be able to take my opportunity. So, having those game plan things, having those opportunities to be able to be successful in different situations is the foundation. But really, the bottom line is doing everything you can on a daily basis to be the best you can be. And when you go out there, you just go out and let it fly and have fun and enjoy yourself because the work is done.
Sure.
So when you start thinking about this and thinking about that and how about this and that's when it starts getting overcomplicated. So like I said, just real simple, just work as hard as you can, work smart, know what your goals are, be true to yourself, and and obviously I can look back now, especially with the perspective of a lot of years of being out of the sport, is trust that God is going to take care of you.
Yep.
And that's where it comes, that faith over fear mentality. I mean, you hear that a lot for a lot of different things.
Right.
But just trusting that what's going to be is going to be according to His will. So you just have to put yourself in a position. It says in the Bible that everyone races.
Yep.
Everyone runs a race, but not everyone wins a prize. So run to win.
Sure.
Right? So prepare to win, and if you don't win, you gave it your all. And I really think that's something that really is fostered me, through the years.
Well, that's what I would want to hear if I was your recruit, and I love that. And the other thing too, as an objective observer, just as a fan, I always felt that Carrie McCoy took his match to his opponent. That you wrestled your match.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was talking to someone about that the other day, and it's like, again, I talked about having a game plan, having a strategy, being aware of what your opponent's going to do, but ultimately you have to focus on yourself.
Yeah.
And I have to make sure that if I know you've got a really good high crotch, okay, I could spend a lot of time trying to stop you from getting to your high crotch.
Sure.
Or I can spend a lot of time making sure that if you get there, I know how to counter. And that's where it came from with Stephen Neal is a perfect example. I know that Stephen's he's gonna get to a double leg.
Sure.
If not once, but I know he's gonna get. So I have to be ready to defend the double, not try to stop him from shooting it, because there's no way I'm gonna stop him from getting there. So I got to be ready to counter and ready to score on that. So that's what it is about, focusing on myself and being aware of what they're gonna do, and make sure I have the skills and the preparation ready to take advantage of my opportunities.
Well, and that's beautiful, and that's what leads you as a successful coach. You had a lot of success at Maryland that led you now to your new adventures. So talk a little bit about that transition from as the head coach in Maryland, some of the successes, All-Americans that you had there, into your new position as the executive director for the Regional Training Center for the Olympic movement out in California.
Yeah, thanks for that. And it's
Sure.
it's pretty cool. I mean, through our years as the head coach at Stanford and Maryland, we coached a lot of All-Americans. Tanner Gardner was at Stanford. He was the first three-time All-American at Stanford.
Sure.
And just an awesome story. And Josh Panzik, he made the semifinals, and he was a two-time All-American. So, had that success in the years they were here, and we were, high level of wins and duels, high level of placing in the conference tournament, and then went to Maryland and had a pretty successful run, won 3 conference championships, had, over 13 individual All-Americans and, a bunch of all-conference and NCAA qualifiers. And, the most rewarding thing about my time as a head coach, especially, in the recent years at Maryland, was we, for the most part, everyone that stayed with our program for, their time, 3, 4, 5 years that
Sure.
stayed on our team, they all graduated, and they're all working now. And that was one thing that I would talk about consistently, because again, the titles, the winning and losing, that's nice. It's a nice thing to write on a plaque or put on a trophy, hang on your wall. But taking steps to be better and to help society to be better is really what it is. And being great husbands, great fathers, great members of society. And so the majority of our guys that obviously they stayed with the program, they got their degrees and their work. And there's some people that didn't stay with the program, may not have wrestled for their full time. Maybe had a couple guys transfer out, so we're not able to track the people that transfer out and what they did. But I know every member that stayed and finished their career with us is working and has a degree, which that's something that's really important to me, because now they have a better opportunity for success in their life with that college degree. And obviously the guys that graduate from Stanford,
Yep.
they're in a different category with a lot of things. But Maryland's a great school and one of the best public institutions in the country, and they had some great opportunities. So that's the thing that I'm most proud about.
Well, Carrie, that's a ripple effect. That's beautiful. That type of metric is important to you as a head coach, but more importantly, it speaks to your servant mentality of allowing these young men to matriculate into the society at large with a lot of chances. And that degree, that foundation gives them so much chances to be not only successful, but be effective as a passer along of the lessons learned by you, and of course your DNA from the people that you learned from and the people that you mentioned both at high school, college, and internationally. And that's really what it's all about. It's paying it forward, like you said, but also giving back. And I love that. So you're now taking that huge and really strong foundation from amazing universities, Penn State, Stanford, and Maryland, and now bringing it to the Olympic movement. So we're so excited to have you as that person on the West Coast. So speak a little bit about what you're looking to achieve there.
Yeah, that's a great. Thank you for that, because it's always, as you see it, we talk about, it's always been about serving. It's all about producing positive members of society. And the great thing about the position now in California Olympic Regional Training Center is I can serve a much broader audience. We can have the age group guys, the cadets and juniors that are eligible to train with the RTC, and then obviously the collegiate age athletes, and then also the post grads, and we also have a handful of veterans athletes. So we're got a pretty wide spectrum of people that we are going to serve in the local area, but then also just being involved in California's got a great tradition top to bottom in their success in the sport of wrestling. So being able to really pour in and feed into that level. So our goal for our athletes are pretty simple. We have a 3-pronged approach. I mean, first is competitive success. We want to give athletes the resources to be able to compete at a high level and pursue world and Olympic championships at all levels. And the second thing is we want to focus on giving back to the community, serving as we can.
Sure.
There's a lot of opportunities for wrestlers to give back. And the third thing that's more unique for us that you're not going to see at many other places, really tie that path to after wrestling.
Excellent.
And it's something that being here in Silicon Valley, there's a lot of resources, tech companies, and those places where we can use the resources around and use the opportunities and connections to really build a full menu of opportunities where our athletes, as they're going through their competitive success, they're still building their skills for after wrestling networking and interviewing skills and getting some job experiences. So, those are things, and we call it 360-degree wrestler, because
Sure.
we're looking at complete and total commitment to not just winning on the mats, but winning in life, and giving you the skills where your personal success and your personal competitive pursuits, that's where you're going to be spending the bulk of your time. You don't have to sacrifice that to give back and be in a local community organization and be able to inspire young people and give back at that level. And then the career piece of it is after wrestling to make sure you have these skills and being able to do it. And the ultimate thing is you turn around, you give back to the community, but then you also give it back to the sport of wrestling and inspire the next generation of great leaders and great contributors. So we're really focused and fired up about that. We've got a very engaged board, continue to build that out, and the staff. The nicest thing about the setup is being tied to a college program and having the connections with the resources at Stanford. Then
Sure.
also having the freedom and flexibility for the college coaches to focus on the college and have a dedicated coach that can really pour into the RTC athletes, and it's really an awesome setup.
Well, and that is fantastic. I absolutely love your mission, particularly the after wrestling mission part. It's so incredibly integral and vital. As we wrap up, it's been a fantastic interview, Carrie. I really appreciate you being so generous with your time and with your passion for our sport, but more importantly for the young people under your charge. We end our Blood Time podcast with asking the guest one or two nuggets of wisdom that you'd like to leave our audience with to take with them.
Yeah, I appreciate that opportunity because,
Sure.
one thing that I always talk about, no matter what you do, if there's one little thing that I can do that helps somebody be better and improve, then it's a successful endeavor. So anything that I can pour into, and again, I'll go back to just a simplified focus that I talk about is just 100%. Like, give everything you have. And
Right.
it's one of those things that it's interesting because it gets kind of lost in today's society, and the value of showing up and working hard. Back in the day, that's kind of was the expectation, and now it's like sometimes you gotta actually try to broker and try to negotiate to get people to work hard no matter what field you're in. So
Sure.
show up, work as hard as you can,
Yes.
and right there, that's a huge deal. So that's the first thing I would say. Just show up and work as hard as you can, give your best. Right? That's something that you think is it's common knowledge, but you see it all the way across the board. And some people just don't have that commitment. And I don't necessarily think it's always a malicious thing. It's just sometimes the people just don't have that. Hey, show up and work hard. Right?
Yeah.
Show up on time and work hard.
Yep.
And so that would be the number one thing that I believe in. And the second thing, again, cliche, is it's just make sure that you don't give up on yourself. Make sure you give yourself, believe in yourself like that. So you show up and you work hard, you do everything you can to be successful, and then don't let anyone tell you that you can't do something. Now, obviously, we hope it's positive,
Sure.
right? But don't listen to the naysayers. Don't follow the statistics. Don't follow it's like, hey, set a goal, work hard, and go all in. And if you don't get it, don't have a reason for you not reaching your goals because you didn't give it your all. You let someone else talk you out of it. If you go and you try and it just wasn't meant to be,
Yes.
wasn't part of God's plan for you.
Yep.
Hey, I can live with that. But if you, Johnny said this, or Mom said this, or Coach said this, and that's why I didn't do it. And in 10 years you look back, because the biggest thing that I talk about when it comes to just kind of when you're stepping away from something is not having any regrets. And if you come back and after a match, after a test, after a job interview, you go back and say, man, I wish I would have done this. It's like, you had the opportunity to control it. So, don't let anybody talk you out of anything. Don't let any reason for you not reaching something, if it's not about you and your level of commitment and don't let anything like that, anything else outside that influence it. Now, obviously you take advice and you hear different people say, but don't ever let someone derail you because of their feelings or their shortcomings. Just understand that, hey, do your best, and if it doesn't happen, it just wasn't meant to be. It wasn't part of God's plan.
I love that. So you've dropped some serious wisdom, spirit, and inspiration on us, and I could not thank you more for being part of Blood Time, Carrie, and now Blood Time family. And so I wish you the absolute best in your new, exciting adventure and all the people that you're going to inspire to do great things as they go through your system. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. I really appreciate the opportunity for coming on, and hope we can do it again sometime soon.
We are all blood. This is Coach Cimoroni, and love to all.
Our next sponsor, Infinite Search Solutions, is Northeast Ohio's premier recruiting and placement service. They make it easy, fast, and simple to find the right people to help you build the perfect team. I personally know Matt Burns and his team. They will find you the candidates you need. Call them today at 440-249-0485 or visit them on the web at www.in-finite, that's FINITE.com. Matt Burns, thank you so much. We love you, Infinite Search Solutions.
I want to share with you my thought of the day. Agendas are a thing of the past. It's time for authentic humanity.